The New Orleans Pelicans are playing some great basketball so far this season. Right now, they are currently sitting at third place in the Western Conference with a record of 24-16. And even though this organization has dropped 3 out of their last 4 ball games, I still firmly believe that this should be one of the most feared teams in all of the NBA. Now, I've been paying very close attention to the New Orleans Pelicans since last year around the All-Star break, and I can say that I've been watching this team just grow and develop so much. And one thing that I've noticed about this team is that they just play so great through adversity. I think last year they really showcased that. We look at the way the New Orleans Pelicans started the season and then their ability to finish the season, one of the biggest turnarounds in NBA history, and just the ability to play when their best players were out. Last year they had no Zion Williamson at all, and they still found a way to make the playoffs. So that's one thing that I noticed that is so impressive about the New Orleans Pelicans, and they are carrying that character trait over into this season, and they're doing it even better this year. Now, this season, the New Orleans Pelicans, obviously one of the best teams in the NBA. They're currently number 3 in a very loaded Western Conference, and they've even held that number 1 spot for a little while. And so far this season, the New Orleans Pelicans, they still have not been able to escape that injury bug. One of the best players on the team, Brandon Ingram, he has missed majority of this season due to a toe injury. And just about 3.5 games ago, Zion Williamson, he goes down against the Philadelphia 76ers. After the game, we figure out it's a hamstring injury, and he's going to be out for at least 2 weeks, I believe. So usually when a franchise, when their 2 best players on the team go down, it's time to, and when they go down and they're out for a healthy amount of time, it's time to hit the panic button, because a lot of teams can't function without those 2 best players. And this is one thing that I love about the New Orleans Pelicans. Starting back last year and coming into this season, whenever they lose one of their key guys, someone always steps up to make things better. And this is why I think they should be one of the most feared teams in all of the NBA. And I know this team, they've dropped 3 out of their last 4 ball games, but they've been playing some great competition. We look at that game against Philly. That's the game where Zion makes his exit, and that game was still winnable for the New Orleans Pelicans. And then they go on to beat the Houston Rockets, and then they lose 2 very hard-fought games to the Brooklyn Nets, who have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, and all those skilled guys on that team. And then they go and lose to Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. So those are some hard games, especially when you don't have your 2 best players out there on the court. But one thing that you gotta love from the New Orleans Pelicans is that they were very competitive, and we've seen some of those other guys step up. Now, one player that just continues to get better with each and every game for the New Orleans Pelicans is Naji Marshall, and I think the biggest improvement for him so far this season has been on the offensive side of the ball. We just see him transforming into a 3-level scorer that's starting to put the basketball on the floor to create for himself and create for others. And just watching him over these last handful of games, I feel like he's done a great job of scoring the basketball and scoring efficiently. And I think what's so important is the way that Naji Marshall scores the basketball, because he can do it with or without the basketball in his hands. He's been very effective coming off dribble handoffs, cutting hard to the rim, knocking down spot-up threes, and with the basketball in his hands, he has been fantastic. And one thing I love about Naji Marshall, and I think this is very important for him and the personnel around him, is that when he has the basketball in his hands, he's not holding on to it for very long. He's making his move and his decisions very quickly, and I think that's very important when you are playing alongside guys like CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, because most of the time for them guys to be effective, they need the basketball in their hands. So guys like Naji Marshall, they're not going to have that much time. So I love that he makes his moves and decisions very quickly. And not only is he having a great effect scoring the basketball, but he's also affecting the game in other ways. Recently, he's done a great job of setting up his teammates and assisting the basketball. He also hits the glass and rebounds. And if you're playing under Coach Willie Green, you're going to play hard on the defensive side of the ball. So Naji Marshall, he's been great for the Pelicans recently, been giving them a little bit of everything. And I think once this team gets 100% healthy and he starts to go back playing with the second unit and playing against the secondary defenders, he's going to get a lot more easier buckets. So I love the way Naji Marshall has been playing for the New Orleans Pelicans. And another thing to add to why the New Orleans Pelicans are still a competitive team when they're missing high-level players like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, we have to go back to last year's NBA trade deadline when they made the decision to go out and get CJ McCollum, which I believe, if we look back at it, it has to be the best move at that NBA trade deadline because it's by far been the most productive. We look at what the role that CJ played in getting the Pelicans into the playoffs and the role that he's played this year to having them become one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And since December 22nd, CJ McCollum, he's been playing some great basketball. He's had 2 40-point games, and he's also had 5 games scoring more than 20 points. So he's been tearing it up recently for the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, you guys already know how I feel about CJ McCollum. Deep down in my heart, I firmly believe that he is the best player in NBA history to never make an All-Star game. You look at his numbers, his skill set, the moves that he has in his bag. I think it's very crazy that CJ McCollum has never seen an All-Star game, but he can do just about anything on the offensive side of the ball. He can elitely score from all 3 levels. He can knock down that 3-point shot, whether it's off the catch, off the dribble. If he's on fire, he's going to pull up from 30. He also has an elite handle on the basketball. He can break down just about anybody in the league when it comes to taking them off the dribble and getting to his spot. The mid-range pull-up is probably the best part of his game. He can knock that down over a double team, hand in his face, it doesn't matter. And I think a very underrated part of his game, and I think this happens a lot of the time in the NBA when it comes to guys that can knock down the jump shot, the way that they finish around the rim becomes severely underrated. But CJ McCollum, he has an elite floater, he has the high glass layup, he's acrobatic, and he can also finish through contact. It's something that CJ McCollum has been more accustomed to since joining the Pelicans, and I think he knew that this was going to have to happen, but he's become more of a playmaker. He does a great job of setting up his teammates, and he's gotten much better in that area since he's come to the Pelicans. So CJ McCollum, he tears it up on the court, but I think he also has a great effect on this team off the court as well. And he's a great leader. And we all know that elite leadership in the locker room is just as important as the elite skill set out on the court. And we could just see the brotherhood within the New Orleans Pelicans. These guys have been making the game of basketball look so fun. I seen this clip. I believe Dyson Daniels had like double-digit points and he had like 9 assists. And Jose Alvarado, he goes over and he tells Zion to get Dyson Daniels his first double-double of his NBA career. And Zion said, "Oh yeah, of course, no problem." And he goes out and he gets Dyson Daniels an assist and he gets his first double-double. So when you see things like that, you go, oh yeah, this is a real brotherhood. So when you have that brotherhood and you have the skill set, this team is going to be very dangerous. And I've just been observing the Pelicans from afar. I haven't been uploading that many videos, but I'm still locked into the NBA, and I go like, damn, the Pelicans, this team hasn't been at full strength at all this season. We haven't seen the combination of Brandon Ingram, Zion, and CJ McCollum too many times. So I was thinking like, hey, the NBA, man, by the time March and April and the playoffs come around, these teams better be taking the Pelicans serious, because these boys are coming, and once they get fully healthy, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.